Hello, Facebook land. In a better mood today, so less likely to have a bunch of rants. But I figured I'd get on in just a second here. I'm grabbing thermal hygrometer from the garage. Boop. So I can get some good experimental data. It is 145. Okay. Also, just fun thing I'm doing here is doing a battery capacity check on this little battery stick I found. It's a Goal Zero little USB light. Splurged a little bit as I'm going into the solar tech and got me a couple of lights. Not only because Goal Zero lights are badass, and I totally recommend you go get one, and they haven't paid me yet to say that, so you know I'm telling you the truth. But the simple fact of the matter is they're awesome. What else is awesome is the hothouse back here that we're actually going to be upgrading. Sarah and I talked about it today. I got the go-ahead from the wife. So just kind of give you a general idea what we're dealing with here. Let me step out a little bit so you can get the full perspective. So we got our garage roof fixed. So now it's watertight, thankfully. And then on the back of it here is, I call it the hot house because it gets ridiculously hot in here. Somebody tried to make it a greenhouse, success of some sort. And then it just ended up going, it's basically storage for chicken feed. Wood cures really well back here, so this is where I put my wood pile for curing. We didn't get a whole lot of moisture this year, so there wasn't a lot to deal with. But as you can see, we've got it basically, if you're talking about insulating things, you talk about R values. And typically the higher the R value, the greater the level of insulation. In your home, it's supposed to have a certain R value so that your heating and cooling is efficient. And things like the hothouse here has a higher R value than the greenhouse. And I'll show you the greenhouse setup here in a little bit. But it's still not very much. Like the only thing insulating here, I'll flip it back around. You can see there's basically spray foam insulating, caulking between those two, and these people, they just took pallets and they made a little lean-to shed. It had a tar paper roof on it. Then Sarah and her dad came through and put in this clear plastic, not super efficient, not even really super pretty, but also it's made for short people, because there's the roof and there's my head. So I can only use like half of this without leaning down. So I'm going to bring this wall up, this wall on this side here, and I'm going to brace that up, and then I'll redo the connection up over here as I need to. Shouldn't be too bad. I should just be able to pick this side up a foot or so. And then we're going to insulate it a little bit better, get some better R values back here. And then the next thing, or the other thing we're going to do is, this is one of our spring summer beds, and you can actually see it's still trying to grow. It's still trying to grow onions for us. And Sarah's getting ready to put some cold weather crops in, kale, spinach, leafy greens, that kind of stuff. Really keep us, keep our nutrients up during the winter. But I need a heat pump. Let me go over here. I need a heat pump to keep this at a good temperature. And this hothouse over here, I'll give you an idea of the setup again. There's that bed, some mullein needs to be worked back into the soil. I may still have some potatoes in there and some potatoes over here. I got to dig through those mounds. And that's Sarah's potting bench that I made for her a couple of years ago. with the help of my nieces and nephews. But then this is where this sits, and then we've got a little bit of water catchment, but they took our old busted rain gutters off, so I need to update the water catchment and the rest of that. But essentially the idea is to take the heat from the hothouse and share it over here with this bed, and also do a little hoop house setup on it. A hoop house is super inexpensive. The lift up on the hothouse is a little more expensive, time consuming, that kind of thing. But it should be pretty easy to do compared to the rest of the work that needs done. So yeah, I just wanted to show you guys one of the projects we're working on. There's always this time of year-end projects like rebuilding the soil. Like the soil, when we started this bed earlier this year, we had tomatoes, and I don't know, we'll have to look at the other videos. But you can see it's starting to get overgrown with raspberries and other stuff. And so this time of year, we top it off, make sure we fill it up to the brim again. This year, we've actually got biochar. So we'll be amending it there, so you can kind of see what biochar looks like in the bed. It's super luscious and delicious. But I just threw some raw biochar down here, and you see a dark, black, yummy soil color, and we just mix it in with squash and whatever leftovers, mulch it all back in. Happy soil equals happy plants, so on and so forth. So if you guys want any help building your soil out, I have plenty of tools and resources for that. And if you want to know more about the hothouse and the passive solar, which is going to actually help heat the garage too, we'll get more into that as I do the videos. But the passive solar, because one of the things doing the solar experiments, especially the photovoltaic stuff, the active use of the solar, is like, I've actually got snapshots. The weather station does the watts per meter squared, UVI, that kind of stuff. It's only got a tiny little sensor in it. But the simple non-science up version is, on a cloudy day, solar panels don't work very well, even if you got a bunch of them. And one of the main reasons Sarah and I updated the roof is we want to put solar panels, south-facing solar panels on the garage roof. We've got a great solar footprint for it. But how much money are we going to get back from it? How much is it going to dump back into our power bank and that kind of stuff? And we don't know that until we do the experiments and the actual tests on it, which I'm currently doing myself. And then obviously there'll be tests from the solar install company when we finally do go that route. Yeah, so that's what's going on around the homestead. If you guys have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments. I may end up doing this to YouTube. I'm trying to build out a YouTube channel as far as urban homesteading, community gardening, that kind of stuff goes. Sarah and I have a lot of wisdom to share there, and so we'd like a place to cache all of it instead of a couple of one-offs here on Facebook or Instagram. We've got a pretty decent Instagram if you want to go check out the Sweet Creek Community Co-op Instagram. Sarah's doing a really good job with that. But that's what we're doing around here. Oh, and before I forget, I want to bring you over to another example of our values, which is this here's the greenhouse that has our the remaining tomato harvest in it. And this has been heating up to almost 100 degrees just by itself inside there. Which naturally the heat fluctuations affecting the tomatoes, like the big ones are actually like bursting from going from cold to hot. But if we open this up here, drum roll please. Look at all that gorgeousness. Green and red and yellow. That's my idea of Thanksgiving and Christmas colors, eh? yeah, and I mean, it's nice and warm in there. Can't see the thermometer from here, but I mean, I feeling it. Feels like 60, 70 easy, maybe up to 80 degrees where the thermometer's at. But again, this is as a passive solar model. On cloudy days, you won't get much for solar energy for electricity, because you need quite a bit of solar intensity for electricity. But for passive solar, like the greenhouse here, which is just this, it's this cheap sheeting plastic, visqueen I call it, and then on this other side is a rubber mat, actually upcycled from an aquaponics setup that somebody was getting rid of, and so the rubber mat holds on to the sunlight, holds on to the heat, and then the clear up top lets it through and lets it percolate in. And then I've got a little heater in there. I'll show you again. Just a little radiant heater in there. If you can see behind the electric smoker. The electric smoker was drawing way too many watts. It was drawing 1,500 watts, and it kept tripping the breaker in the surge protector. So luckily, the little radiant heater only draws 800 watts. And so those are different things, you know, this time of year. What are your heating and cooling costs? What are your, how are you using the energy and resources around you? So all stuff that I'll be getting into with later videos, but I just wanted to touch base real quick with the lean-to inspection, give you guys a little bit of, the hothouse inspection, give you guys a little bit of insight into how the process works. And you guys really like the hinged floor that I did last year to increase the storage space. So this is what I'm doing this year. 'Tis the season. Do projects. And it's perfect temperature for it too. You can work up a decent sweat without dying from heat. So peace, y'all. I'll get back to work. Love y'all. Thanks for tuning in.